This session is on sponsorships, our continuing workshops of sessions. Paul Harris is in the woods today trying to get a sugar camp open, so I'm pinch hitting. So Greta is our at-large district director. She was put on the OFMA sponsorship team last year to work with Stanley on how we revamped our sponsorship program with a limited convention, and done a great job. So again, this call is being recorded. The chat, I will monitor the chat, and I would ask that you keep your phones muted. Just remember, this will pick up everything, distance or noise distance from afar and close. So, but again, welcome to the call. Go ahead, Greta.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Can you see my screen? A thumbs up if so.
Yes.
All right, great. So the title of our session here this morning is going to be Sponsorship for 2021, Reset of our 2021 Fair Push. And a little tagline that I had mentioned to Howard I thought would be kind of neat is how to promote fairs like when we were kids. So I really do believe with the restrictions on travel and the restrictions of activities in our communities, we have a tremendous opportunity in front of us to engage sponsors as well as engage folks to come to our fair and really kind of take a step back in time, maybe like when we were all kids, and how the county fairs used to be managed and participated at the local level. So a couple things about the session today. You're going to see that this is going to be an interactive session. So we want you to participate in this meeting. We're going to be using a tool called Mentimeter. And if you have your cell phone handy, and if you go to a browser window, and I'm going to do the same thing right now myself, I'm going to launch Chrome on my phone. And if you type in menti.com, okay, and when you get to that menti.com, it's going to ask for a code. And as we start working through the presentation here this morning, we'll be able to put that code in, and then you'll be able to type your results into the phone, and you'll see reactions on the screen, and then see how everybody's kind of pulling in on answers. Everybody good with that? All right, so let's get started here. So as we work through the information today, over to the right screen here. We got a question right out of the gate here. So at the very top of the window, you're going to see the code. So you'll type that in. That's the one that starts with the 5444025, and then select your submit button. Okay, cool. We're already getting responses in here. So that's great. So we can review these questions. Just go ahead and put your results in, and we'll see the screen change here as we go. Sponsorship is essential for my fair. Our sponsors are engaged. We recognize our sponsors. And then the last one is we can do more to recognize our sponsors. And then you can hit your submit button on your phone, and we'll give everybody some time. And I just want everybody to notice in the bottom right-hand corner of my window, it's going to tell us how many participants that we have. Okay, so we had 12, we're going up to 14, the number's going up to 16. This is great participation, Howard. All right, looks like we're kind of hanging out here at 16. So let's take a look at our results. So sponsorship is essential for my fair. I think everyone completely agrees that. Most of our junior fair activities and awards and things of that nature are definitely gracious donations from our communities and businesses. Our sponsors are engaged. That number's a little bit light. So maybe our sponsors are giving money to our cause, but maybe they're not coming to the fair. Maybe they don't really know what the fair is. Maybe they don't realize what other opportunities might be out there present to be engaged in. And we recognize our sponsors. That's great to see that number at 3.8. So we want to make sure, whether it's banner recognition, fair book ads, you know, anytime we can recognize our folks, you know, for their support, and then we can do more. I always feel like in my heart that I can always do more for my sponsors, even if it's just picking up the phone and visiting with them, a thank you note, whatever that might be. But it's great to know that I think everybody's on the same page, that we might want to try to do just a little bit more to open that door, because we know in our businesses they have a certain amount of donation money that they can head our direction. Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at the next slide here.
No, it's right. Oh.
Okay, the next thing I think was, we talk about sponsorship and our fairs. I think we want to always take the time to tell our story, right? We want to engage our sponsors. We want them to know. Everybody knows at your fairs what you do, but what's the easiest way to talk to our sponsors? It's to tell the story. It might be your story. It might be your story via another youth, another fair board member. It might go back into your archives and talk about your fair. But I think it's always important that we personalize the message, because we all know what we do day in, day out, but we need to positively promote our fairs. Okay, so this is my story. This is my first year in 4-H with my steer named BJ. And then the middle picture is my last year in 4-H, when I was finally fortunate enough to have a grand champion lamb. And goodness, doesn't that lamb look a lot different now than they do now, you know, in today's days. So that was back in the 1990, I think. And then last year, my birthday fell on the Clinton County Fair, our last Saturday of the fair. We were fortunate enough to have a full fair, and my mom surprised me with a visit. So we had some David Drake ice cream. So that was a great birthday and a great day at the fair. So those are our three kind of point in times I wanted to point out. So always tell your story. Okay. So here's another Mentimeter. So you should see the slide change on your device. And I want you to take a look at this picture and tell me, as you look at it, what do you see in this photo? And you have 3 buckets you can put in there. And then you can see, as we're placing our results, our word cloud is building. And the more that the same result comes forward, the larger the text is going to be on the screen. Looks like we have 11 participating right now, up to 12. We'll give it a couple more minutes to collect this information. So what the word cloud does for us is it talks about what is being seen. Is everybody sees things a little bit differently. We always got to keep that in mind as we work with our boards, we work with our community, we work with our sponsors. How do they see us and how do we see them? So people looking from the outside in at our fair or in at our organization, what are they seeing? And now I'm going to tell you a little bit about this story. So this story here is on the Sunday after the fair, when I was working in our campgrounds cleaning up. And I just happened to notice 2 young individuals walking towards our poultry building. Okay. Now this picture means more to me than anything, because what it tells me and what I've posted on Facebook about this is why we do what we do, is for these kids. In the end, point blank, it's what we do. We love agriculture, we love our fairs, we love our traditions, we love the shows, we love the competitions, we'd like to see a lot of smiles on the faces, but this is why we do what we do at our fairgrounds, right? This is what we have to promote to our sponsors and anyone that supports us. All right, so I really do like all of the interaction here. We had up to 18 people, and we're going to be collecting this information. And of course, it'll be pushed out, but look at the one main when it pops up: family, future, love, friendship, caring. I mean, there's all these very important values that we can take back to our sponsors as we convey our message about our fairgrounds.
Mike Living's on too.
Now we get into some of the nuts and bolts, and what I want to talk about here is how we took a look at the sponsorship program, and I worked with Stanley and the committee on what we needed to do moving into 2021 on sponsorship. Now, sometimes it's easy to have that final product right here in front of us, right? So you saw this when you may have entered the call initially when Howard had the screen popped up, but these are our sponsors. This is where we ended. We don't always have that in front of us when we're building out a program. But what I want you to know is we're working through these next topics is we're talking about sponsorship and how to promote our fairs, but also keep in mind, you can use these same techniques that we're going to be going through to take a look at a specific show, a specific event, a thing that you do in your office. I mean, there's a lot of things you're going to be able to take these same bullet points and promote as you work with your teams and your boards and your community on positively promoting your fair. So this is the final product. This is our sponsor list. We were very, very fortunate to have a lot of support through the OFMA sponsorships, which does go back to each one of your fairs for us to help you. But what did it take to get us there? We needed to reset and reimagine. Things are different, right? We had a different platform. We didn't know what was going to happen, but we knew we needed to reset and reimagine. We needed goals and objectives. We need to know what we want to do, when we want to do it, and how we want to get there. So that's the plan. The plan is what guides us. We always know in best laid plans, we have to be flexible, but we have to have vision. Vision is very important. And then of course, the final product, where do we want to land in the end? Okay. Okay, so as you can only imagine, as we work through a plan or any type of a process, what's going to happen? Change needs to happen. So there's a set of questions here that I would like you again to take a look at your Mentimeter, and let's see where we can land on these. Goodness, look at all the 5s pop up there. Change is the one constant. I've been reminded of that over and over and over, right? So change can be powerful. Change is hard for my board. Were there changes in 2020 that will be adopted for years to come? So again, we're already up to 15, 16. We'll give her a couple minutes here just for everybody to kind of digest and think about this information. Up to 18 people. This is great. Great stuff. All right, I think everybody agrees that's the one thing. If you didn't know, after this past year, change is the one constant. 4.4 out of everybody reporting. Change can be powerful. It can be very powerful. Sometimes it takes change to make us think a little bit forward and react appropriately. Change is hard for my board. That's good. We're kind of in the middle of the road there. Were there changes in 2020 that will be adopted for years to come? Okay. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, so thinking about that first slide, the first thing we talked about is we need to reset and reimagine. So when we looked at our sponsorship program, and you may be looking at events or approaching your sponsors, needed a different approach. We needed to take a step back and see where we're at. We needed a purpose. We know the times were fluid. We needed flexibility. Howard and Paul and Bev and the programming committee will admit that we probably had, what, 3 or 4 revisions before we ever got to conference. But we knew that going in. That was the key. That's what made it successful. We were ready to move. Communication. So not only outgoing information, but sharing of thoughts coming back the other direction. Buzzwords, electronic, virtual, and social. Those are huge words for us nowadays. We wanted to look professional. We wanted to stand apart. We needed to look at our branding. So as you're working with your advertising and promotions, anytime you can be consistent in your word, people will remember those things. They like those pictures on Facebook. They like different things. We need to lead with innovation. That's what one thing that Stanley and I really talked about is we needed to take the step and kind of just make it evolve into what we really wanted it to be. And we also wanted to identify opportunities. Sometimes we had an issue at our fairgrounds the past couple weeks in our tickets and gates where we have an issue, but when somebody says it's an issue and I said, well, let's take it as an opportunity. Let's work through it. So we have to always be looking for those opportunities. Okay, everybody read the heading here. And does that look familiar to anybody? It's on a fairgrounds. When the wheel rolls off. So how would you rate this? Is it an issue or concern? And we say, why us? Or is it an opportunity and let's solve it together? Few more minutes here, get everybody reporting. Up to 13. All right, so I think we're getting pretty close to our normal number of 16 to 18 in that range. But as we look at this, it is ranked in this group by an opportunity. Let's solve it together. That is one thing that fair boards do very well and very successful. There's always obstacles. There's always challenges, whether it's rain, thunderstorm, swine flu, whatever it is, we work together. We work with our neighboring counties. We work with our Ohio fair managers. We work with our vets and the ODA, and we work through it, right? Our fairs are here. They are consistent. This past year has been a struggle. But again, if we take the message in the right way and look and promote what we're saying here, that we have opportunities, let's solve them together with our community, our health departments, and let's work forward. So thank you all for those responses. All right, so now it gets into some fun stuff. And again, not that we have to read every bullets under goals and objectives, but I'll be the first one to disclose, I did not pretty up my outline. I didn't pretty up my notes. I just captured them from the email that I sent out to our sponsorship team. But I think you can use these a lot as you're working through different sponsorship ideas or planning events. But number one, we had to have goals and objectives. We wanted a one-page document. Has everybody heard of the KISS method? Okay, so we wanted to keep it very simple, not get too far in the weeds in our initial discussions. We wanted to be fluid. We wanted to educate to our purpose. We wanted to make sure we're communicating with our sponsors and looking for new relationships. We wanted the information to be clear and understandable because, you know, we're working virtually. It's very important. And we wanted this to be, again, we want to lead with innovation. That was very important to us. Because we're answering the whys. Now we're going to get into the hows. How do we get this done? So we wanted to step back and take a look and make sure everybody understands what is and who is and why do we for the OFMA, right? Who we are, what we do, why we do it, and how we do it. So if you would ever look at our sponsorship documentation, as well as pointing back to our website, we have a mission statement. We talk about what we do, okay? The next thing here, we're going to look a little bit about talking about your fairs. So I brought up 6 different thoughts here. So you think about what you do and why you do it. Rank these as you would think about your fair. Oh, we got 20 responses on this one. Okay, so let's talk about these. We got youth development at the top. Oh, community just took a slight lead. So community, youth development, agriculture, family and friends, education, and fun. So I think as we talk to our sponsors or we try to plan events and activities and do advertising, would everyone agree these are very key words that you could use in your promotions, right? They're positive words. I mean, you can use education and fun in the same statement. There are no concerns there whatsoever. But some of these are our core root values of our fairs and are positive words that you can use in your message as you're working with your sponsors, your community, your health department. Okay. 23 responses on that one, Howard. That's big.
Good.
Okay. So again, now we're going to still talk a little bit about answering the hows, and that's in the top part of our document is where, what we know today and where these sponsor dollars or event plannings really benefit us. So when it comes to the OFMA, we had district meetings planned in December, if you remember, at that point in time, and this is looking back to about August, September when we started building this. State meetings in Columbus in January. We were looking so forward to being together with everybody in January. The potential of online programming through March and maybe April. Remember that, Howard? We were thinking, man, we're going to have some additional notes coming out before the fair, and we really wanted to make sure that we got that message out. Little did we know that our whole convention and from January to March would be packed with at least one meeting a week to gather everybody up. And then the potential of the spring meetings, depending on the COVID guidelines, of course, to get everybody together, which we're still very hopeful that this is all going to work out for us to start getting together here at the end of March and the first part of April. Okay. Okay, so more of the plan. What opportunities can we offer to our current sponsors and potential sponsors? And looking at how we wanted to simplify our message, your opportunity. Okay. We were trying to engage our sponsors. So we come up with the 4 different levels: the showman is showman, best of show, grand champion, and blue ribbon. All right.
And just let me interject here, Greta. This is quite a change from our platform we've used in the past. And some of our sponsors who we've worked for the last 20 years still wanted to be involved on key items. So we tied them to that key item as well as their level of sponsorship. And I can tell you, our goal for this program was about $10,000, and we doubled that. We're a little over $20,000 in cash, unaudited yet. This level brought a lot of interest from a lot of people who just wanted to be a sponsor, not tied to a meeting or an objective. But again, most of the ones you see it close to the top on the final product have been around for years, tied to a meeting or an objective. Just wanted to point that out.
Very good. Thanks, Howard. And you'll notice we did have a detailed sponsorship options available at the OFMA website. So we do have more details. And this gets into what we offered then. A few more details back to our sponsors as far as what was in the package. You know, if you're a showman, convention presenting sponsor, these are the key items that you would receive. And then as Howard mentioned, at that point, then we were able to tie them into certain areas. Okay. So what we wanted to make sure though, as we were working through this, is the recognition and the visibility. Just like today's session, our sponsor is the Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association. I made sure that we had the branding on each slide as we were working through it here today. But at a minimum, each sponsor would have had the front page of a presentation and the back page, along with all the emails that Howard and team have been sending out on the virtual programming, our newsletters, our pages and moving up into the convention would have all been displayed. Okay, so we wanted to make sure even in a virtual mode that we could still present our appreciation to those sponsors. Buyer's guide, the website. We had intended for convention to actually print some signage and some banners. My husband and I, we have a print service, so we were going to do that for the OFMA. So you'll kind of get maybe a giggle out of my note down there at the bottom, because my husband, Mike, he just hates banners to no end, and he ends up printing a lot for our fairgrounds as we sponsor the events. And he's pretty daggone good about hanging them up for me too. So again, answering the hows, finishing up the plan, the conclusion. We got to be able to tell our folks, especially in this virtual world, is where do they go for the information? Who do they contact? How do we engage our sponsors? And then thank them for reading and thank them for sponsoring. Our sponsors and potential sponsors not only provide in-kind and monetary donations, but a lot of these folks are partners in the fair industry. Keep that in mind. Even if they're reading, they're seeing our message. Even if they do not donate, they're seeing our message. They're partners. They also become influencers. So that's what we have to understand as we're working with the community. We may not get a sponsorship dollar or a commitment or an in-kind exchange, but they're going to communicate to someone else that may have that interest. That's our influencers. Influencers can have as much power as somebody that is giving you the monetary or in-kind donation. Okay. All right. So that is, we made sure that we put on a pledge sheet. Everything was handled through the OFMA office as far as the amounts. And Howard, I would think you would agree that that was pretty successful having that document set up as such, made it easy.
Yes, and made it easy to read. And again, it was a one-page document. Our former proposals were multi-page, and but this was made a lot simpler.
Very good. And you'll notice at the bottom, it says, thank you for your interest and thank you for your sponsorship. Okay, so let's have a little bit of fun with this one. So as I mentioned earlier, the Clinton County Fair had a full fair, and the last night of our fair, we had an NTPA regional national pull. And this little guy, if you notice real close on his shirt, this is his first pull. He was super excited to be there. We talked a little bit. We did thumbs up. We had just a blast. But can you imagine having this little man's picture on an ad or something of that nature, and how you can engage your support? So again, it's not necessarily about just 4-H kids and animals and their projects. It's about community. It's about how can a family come to the fairgrounds, be safe, have an affordable and a very entertaining day at the fair. Look at that, future puller. I like it. Give it a few more minutes to put some more ideas and thoughts in here. All right. Happy. Memories. Looks like we're getting a few more in here.
Love that mean green pulling machine. That's great.
Having fun at the fair. That's kind of my little slogan I use for the Clinton County Fair. We put on our ads, fun at the fair. Tickled green. All right, so we'll go ahead and go through this to the next screen here. So the last part again is we're going to circle back around and talk about our final product. So the execution of the plan. You know, we had a plan. I'm not saying we didn't vary from the plan a little bit. We had a lot of input. Of course, it was all virtual and email, working with Howard and Teresa at the office, and because they know the need, you know, what makes their life easier, what it makes it easier to push out and answer questions because they're feeling and all of that. So we had to come together with this final plan. So the first page here is your opportunity. Again, we have a note there that talks about why we're doing what we do. It's a little bit gray there. You'll see all this information in our newsletters and such, or if you need copies, feel free to reach out to Howard and I would be glad to get you PDFs of this information. But it's kind of a one-page document that tells what they're going to get and what we want the sponsor and donor to provide. And again, the thank you note at the bottom. And then again, this is more details about our mission statement at the top, very concise, your opportunity, and then your pledge. So using the word your, this promotes ownership of the task, and it makes them feel like they're part of that task. Okay, we're trying to get them to engage, because remember, regardless if they donated or not, they're still an influencer, they're still a supporter, they're still a partner in our game plan. And of course, back to our first slide that we looked at earlier, where we talked about the execution of the plan and the final product. When we started, we didn't know what this was going to look like. We didn't know how many sponsors we were going to have. We just knew that regardless of what it was, we still wanted to get back to a one-page document. So as we were doing our virtual work, we'd be able to get everybody to where they could be seen. Okay. And it says the OFMA thanks these sponsors for their support. Please utilize our sponsors for your product and service needs. That's so important. We want to make sure we utilize these folks as they are helping us. And that would be the same as the message that you might want to do for your fair. Okay. Everybody remember this picture from the first part of the session that we did? It said, what did you feel when you see this photo? Maybe this means a little bit more to you now after you've been through the session and heard my story behind the picture as well. So feel free to comment if you have a change in the way that you feel about the photo. But the one thing that I feel like more than anything is I look at what this information we're supplying to you, and knowing the message that Howard's going to kick to us in a little bit. It's our reason, it's our hope, it's our future. We want to make our fairgrounds sustainable. That's really the key in what we're going after here. So I just wanted to embed this back to you because I think it's a very powerful message as you're working with your community and your sponsors and your supporters, that it's not just about bringing people through the gate to have money to run things. We just need to make sure our fairgrounds are there so we can have these kind of moments with our young'uns. Our reason, I really like that. Give it a couple more minutes here as we work through this one. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and advance to the next slide. So I'd like to recap our session for today, and we need to reset and reimagine. So not only for sponsorship potentially, but the way we plan our fairs, the way we plan our events. We need goals and objectives. We always got to know what we're after when we're setting up the next level, which is our plan. We need a plan. And then we need the final product. And that's the vision. So I would encourage all of you to tell your story. You know, I told my story up front. Tell your story. Come from the heart, and then execute your plan. Couple basic notes I think that are helpful to me and Howard and the programming team, and just to kind of recap some what we've been doing through the virtual conference was, has this session been valuable to you? Have you missed being together in Columbus for the convention? I know I dearly have. Are you ready for the 2021 fair season? And our conference logo this year is Fair Strong. Are we fair strong?
Pretty
Getting a
good
few more.
responses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, again, as we're finishing up, when Greta's done, we'll talk about what's going on in Columbus. So don't jump off till you see me again.
All right, so just a big thank you for attending the session today. As I mentioned, my contact number's there if you'd like to reach out at any point in time. Be glad to help you with notes or seeing the information. We'll be posting the PowerPoint session, of course, on the website, and then they're pushing that the presentations are recorded and those are posted to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to that because it gives us extra tools and features as we start building the the tools that we're going to push out later. And then special thanks to the Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association for sponsoring this session. And Howard, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay. Well, Renee Mancino is on. Renee, did you have any thoughts you wanted to share about the harness racing? Any updates that have happened in the last several weeks since your session?
No, we haven't really had any updates, Howard. I was kind of just lurking around on this one because I'm always curious about sponsorships and the way different fairs treat them. I have a lot of questions from my directors all the time on sponsorships at the fairs. So no, it was simply to learn a little bit more about sponsorships and potential for sponsorships and those kinds of things at the fairs. And I'm going to give Greta a shout out. It was an excellent presentation, Greta.
Thank you, Renee. Greta, did you stop your screen share?
I did not, but would you like me to stop it?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, here's the update. We'll start. There's 3 of them. We had a huge call with the governor on Saturday. As you probably have seen, and probably not agreeing with, but have seen, he's starting to relax the orders in Ohio. We believe by Thursday, we will have an order for full fairs, including rides, games, midways, fair shows. But built in that order is going to be a couple things. Number one, the grandstand seating is going to run with the ballparks. So currently for April, that's 30%. But he is believing, not quoting, but he's believing that by the time we get into June, July, that number will be higher as the herd immunity and the vaccinations roll out to start covering the state. But again, that's not, he's not quoting, he's not promising, that's what he's believing. And we pretty much see the same thing based on what we're seeing around other states as well. So that hopefully will be out Thursday, but again, and he's also said there'll be some relaxation of food orders going through, but the mask mandate in Ohio, which is the clump of dirt in the middle of the brand new paved highway, is going to be there. And I know there's a lot of disagreement to that, but that's his thing, is the mask order. And I can tell you, having been in Florida and watched some videos of the Florida fairs that have been running, they have a mask mandate if you can't keep 6 feet apart in Florida, and it has been working very well. And the crowds in Florida at the fairs, now they do not have grandstand shows, have been huge. I think people have been locked up and they want to get out. So that's what's going on down there. So don't be surprised to see the mask mandate, grandstand shows that would roll with the ballpark seating, which for April is 30%. And but again, he is committed to full fairs. Secondly, this series of Tuesday sessions will continue. Paul and the team are going to be teeing up. Union County went through a IRS audit. They're going to share what they happened with that. We're going to probably have a session or 2 on building a safety plan. One of the things that came out of our Saturday call with the governor was the 80 some fairs that had fairs, 80 different plans. So we're going to try to come up with a uniform plan that you can plug your name into, your building count into, your ride company's safety plan into, and submit, so that as these plans circulate around the state from your county health department up to the state, they look more uniform and they can be followed from the front gate clear down through the barns. And another session is going to be 501c3. We've been getting quite a few questions on a 501c3 process. Summit County Fair, Kathy Cunningham and Diana Cochran, the Secretary and Treasurer, are going to build a deck on that and basically walk you through a 1, 2, 3 step process on how they did it with their internal resources and then using their accounting firm. And I think there's a couple more Paul's got in mind. And I just can't think of them off the top of my head. But that's what is in the future. They'll continue on Tuesdays at 10. Sessions are posted, and I'll give you the screen share if I haven't lost it. And I lost it. But anyway, if you go to the OhioFairs.org website, and let me go get it here. Just bear with me there a second. If you go to the OhioFairs.org website, this is what you'll see at the bottom of the page. You'll see a YouTube link. And currently we have 196 subscribers. Our goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers, but here are all the presentations. And this will be posted by midday Wednesday. That's when we try to get them up by midday on Wednesday from the recordings off the cloud. And this is where they're at. And again, you can see last week's we had 71 views plus the 60 some that were on the call. The week before that, 66. And also on here are the Hall of Fame. This goes clear back to the annual meeting is what's on here. And you can look at all these sessions and you can see, you know, like this virtual workshop on Secretary Treasurers and the PPP program had 130 views, plus we had over, I think 100 on the call that day. So again, it's there for your usage and for you to use. So we'll open it up now. I don't see anything in the chat box other than, oh, here's one. Does this mean they will be approved uniformly across the health departments? Colt, that is the objective. One of our complaints to the governor was 125 health departments with 125 different interpretations of the health orders. So our objective to build one document and suggest that you try using that is to avoid your health department going out on their own, on the, cavaliering out there and doing their own thing. There's 12 health departments we had huge issues with that got turned into the state, who then the state on their Wednesday calls goes back and reinforces what this independent thinking health department decided they wanted to do, and told them that was not the objective of the governor's order last year, whether it was the one before July 30th or the one after July 30th. So hopefully, Colt, that answers your question. And again,
Thanks, Howard.
there is an appeals program. Built into your county health department is an appeals program where you can appeal a decision by the county health department to the state for review. And that'll go to a set of health technicians outside of that county, and they'll see if that county, per the health orders by the state, whether they followed the health orders or they cavaliered out on their own. Now it takes about 4 weeks to go through that review, so you could be past the event. But I can tell you, from a personal standpoint, our county fairgrounds, we were closed until fall, based on the 10 count and the 100 count, and then so forth. We have a 20 or a 12-month operation there, and we've been able to reopen with retail type shows. Now we lost our motocrosses, our dance contests, and those big high capacity events, but luckily we've been able to pick up some smaller events. But we have one person that works with our health department. That's Kathy Cunningham. She's the only person that works with the health department, and we write the orders for the shows so that they're not getting an order from a show vendor that they don't understand, and that has worked very well. We've had one point of contention. We worked through that for a bridal show that's coming up, and so far they've allowed us to go ahead and proceed. But again, the issues we've had is with the counties where multiple people are talking to the health department and not having the master plan for the fairgrounds, the master plan for that facility to utilize that shows the sanitation stations and all those things that you got to have now for this issue. So I see Suzanne thought that was a great idea. So is there any questions? Let's open up the floor here. We got about 9 minutes. Paul's tried to keep these to an hour, but again, let's open up the floor for questions if you just want to unmute yourself and ask. Don't be shy. I'm not.
Howard, are we anticipating the new guidelines coming today at 2 o'clock? Is that the plan?
Well, I think it was, but I'm not certain now. I was on a call last night with the governor's staff over some points of contention, and I'm not sure he's going to be ready today. I mean, I guess if he does, I'll be surprised. He did mention it yesterday that it was forthcoming, but I'm hoping for Thursday. This process of those orders has to go through 14 different people, at least that I know of, to be approved. You're talking about lawyers and the director of agriculture, oh, just a whole bunch of people. And so I'm hoping to see it here this week, I guess is what I would say, Colt.
Great, thanks, Howard.
I'd like to say about the call on Saturday morning, it was very encouraging. The tone was great. Everybody was listening, trying to understand, trying to anticipate what the next steps were. But Howard, that would be the one word I would take out, would be encouraging.
Yes, and we directly told the governor directly of the issue with the 100 and some health departments across the state, and each one of them looking at this order differently. And we probably had an 8 or 9 minute conversation about it. So he is fully aware of that. Jim Beakey, who leads this task force that Greta and I and Rod and Bev Fisher are on from OFMA, is aware of this. And quite frankly, they're aware of the financial hardship that last year going to junior fair put on that. I can tell you that we are working diligently in the legislature. We'll have testimony Thursday in regard to the financial instability of our industry, both for the fairs as well as for the ride companies. And we flat out told the governor and the legislators, who we have 2 champions, actually 3 or 4, probably more than that, but a lot of champions in the legislature led by Don Jones at Harrison and Bob Peters from down at Fayette and Hoagland, that our industry is in trouble. We will not have probably half the ride companies or more if we don't get open this year, and they know that. And quite honestly, your industry that you all run totals $114 million in revenue, and the economic impact out there is 4 times that comes out of your fair. So last year in 2019, the fairs took in revenue of 114 million, and they spent about 114 million. So just look at that for the 94 fairs. That does not include the Ohio State Fair, and then put the 1,300 festivals on top of that. And I think we can probably easily, according to the Toledo Blade, get to $4 billion. Is just directly what our industry impacts when you add the festivals in. Is there any other questions, concerns? If you do have a topic you'd like us to consider, you can email the office at ohioFairs@att.net, and we would be glad to do that. We're going to look forward to seeing you at the spring meetings. Those invites are all out. If you've not gotten an invite, you need to go ding your district director on the head and get that invite. We will be using masks and social distancing. We'll have hand sanitizer. The new restaurant orders allows you to now serve yourself or go through the buffet line. I think we're probably going to help plate that for you, being the caterer, but we look forward to seeing you there. All the county fair queens have been invited to come to the district meetings, so that they can be introduced. You know, they kind of got shortchanged not being able to come into Columbus. And so they're all going to be there, as well as along with McKinsey. And I know Bev and her team is planning the queen interviews here probably into early April after the spring meetings. So Greta, you got anything else?
I do not, but I welcome questions. Please reach out if you need anything.
I do not see any of the officers on today, and I didn't anticipate them on. So, but anyway, thanks for your participation. I'm going to be turning the video off. I will leave this open